What up, hustlers?
I was listening to Gary Vee, and I love it. He
Hustler.
said he picked flowers. Yeah, he picked flowers from people's yards and sold it back to him. I literally
Yeah,
went door to door, not like, what do you need me to do that you don't want to do? And I did everything under the sun from moving. I've always had a job. I've always been making money selling stuff on like eBay and to my neighbors and stuff like that. So
nice.
from there, I kind of, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I know how to sell stuff and sell myself. So I thought I was going to be a salesman.
Yeah,
So I went to school to learn how to do that. And I realized that it kind of sucked and that wasn't what I wanted to do at all.
yeah, fair enough.
So, right? It's certainly they taught the kind of the stereotypical used car salesman approach. And I'm like, that's not how the world works. So
Yeah,
I quickly switched to digital media. And from there, I fell in love. I fell in love with web dev. I fell in love with, social and how it changed the landscape of how we communicate with customers. And
yep,
to me, it just, like I said, I fell in love. And SEO came because I like to know things that not everybody else does, and as a way to differentiate myself as a young man.
yeah.
So from there, I graduated from university. I went to work for a startup. They didn't pay me enough, and the guy didn't really know what he was doing, so I jumped ship a little bit,
Fair
and
enough.
I got my
Yeah,
first taste of a true, yeah, like established agency. I worked there for a couple years, learned a lot, and the moment I knew that I could do it better than the owner, I quit, and that was 6 months
awesome.
ago. So
That's cool, man. Yeah. Now, well, congrats on jumping in the deep end.
yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. Yeah, I did that earlier this year, so I know exactly how it feels. So yeah, that's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how have you found everything's been going? Like with not necessarily monetarily, but as in more so like with just the challenges of going from a income that's regular and steady, and then having gone obviously to something that's completely different, and budgets with budgeting say monthly or however it works. It's because it's a big change. Especially if we've been brought up in a society where we're supposed to get paid monthly or fortnightly or whatever it may be. So yeah, have you been going with all
Yep.
that?
Yeah, so for me, I'm kind of a believer in minimalism, so I don't really have a ton of expenses, and I planned my life that way on purpose. I think it's a lot less stressful than having things that you're responsible to pay for and figure out. But I had my first client within the first 2 weeks of starting the
That's awesome.
company. So I
That's really
went into
cool.
full sales mode as soon as yeah, as soon as I quit. I pulled out every card I had of everybody I ever met. I cold like emailed businesses on LinkedIn and contacts that I had in the past, and I did a little baby website for $800. It took me like 70 hours worth of work. It wasn't worth it, but so that was kind of my first jump. But overall, I've been able to, I have four retained our clients on retainer right now. I've had
Yep.
eight total since I started. So money, thank God, has not been an issue, but it is. Casey's loving the shirt.
Well, I was saying before,
It
like
is a great.
being a guy, I've got like 5 shirts or whatever, so they just constantly get rotated. So the amount of videos, because so far I've worn this shirt so many times during the podcast.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In corporate, I had a ton of shirts, and then my weight would fluctuate, like not heaps, but just enough to go up a shirt size or down. So all the shirts that
Yeah.
I have don't
Yeah.
fit.
Hey man, I'm having a similar problem with my pants because I'm getting leaner and I'm running more and I'm
Yep.
shrinking, so nothing fits on that end. But yeah, from
What a
there,
dilemma.
I really yeah. It hasn't been too. Thankfully, I learned a lot of good things from at university, learning about the sales process, just kind of naturally being an extroverted dude,
Yep.
and learning things from the agency like making contracts for more than 6 months,
Okay.
getting
Yep.
guaranteed payment. And but I don't know, it's kind of like the Wild West to me, man. Like some people, that freaks them out that they don't have the steady income. I see it as you can't really get that big win if you don't have an equal amount of risk.
Yeah, it's
So
an
I kind of
opportunity.
get excited by the fact that, yeah, I
Yep.
oddly have the satisfaction of liking the chase. that's something that's been in
Yeah.
me. So it's a little sketchy sometimes. In the first few months, I was like, I had $0 in my bank account. After investing in software and a few contractors and things like that, I had $0. I didn't know how I was going to make money, so I started doing Lyft and flipping iPods on eBay and OfferUp.
Cool.
But things evened out. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, you got to do what you got to do. Like when I first left corporate, because I was a medical practice manager, I bought a ticket to the
Okay.
Philippines and went straight there just to learn about offshoring and outsourcing. And I dropped so much cash, just like, oh, this is great. Like, massages every day and eating out, like, all these great meals. And
Oh yeah.
because it was a business trip, I didn't really drink. So at least I didn't spend any money on alcohol, which would have been like a massive killer. But I was just like dropping cash. And then I came back and was like, oh, fuck.
Oh yeah.
All right, I got to
It's
sort
like
this
your
shit out.
company's an ATM. Yeah. That's what you just got to keep in mind. It's not an ATM. I need to
Yeah,
reinvest this. Taxes are due at the end of the year.
exactly. Put away your
So,
30%.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's cool. No, that's awesome. So, yeah, that's really good. So basically, Saif said hello. Hey, Saif, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you, man. So yeah, basically you left and you're saying it's a bit like the Wild West, but you enjoyed the chase, and that's the thing. If you enjoy the chase, it's really half of what being an entrepreneur is all about. It's about because it's not about
Oh yeah.
stability. It's about, well, it is, but it's more about growing you to a point that you've created stability. It's not just handed to you from a 9 to 5. So I think that's one thing I really love, where it's, in essence, you're developing something from nothing. And yeah, so if you're saying you've managed to get quite a few clients now, so when first starting out, how did you find yeah, with getting those? So you were just cold calling or cold emailing and hitting up all your contacts. When did you start reaching out to those that say you'd never spoken to before and things like that? How did that go about?
Sure. So, and keep in mind for everybody out there, good for you, John. Uh,
Yeah, John's.
the company's only been alive. Uh, Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. John said I've started paying myself a set salary at a lot less than my normal hourly rate for that reason. Yeah, that's awesome, John. Like that's the
Oh
thing.
yeah.
You got a budget, especially if you're 1 to
Same
3
here.
years in. Yeah, got a budget for sure.
Oh yeah. I think I spent like $720 total last month. You know what I mean?
Man, my
Just
food bill
cheap.
was more than
Like,
that.
yeah, that's what I mean. You know what I mean? But those initial clients, I think something to keep in mind for especially people that are less social and extroverted, you've really just got to build your network. You got to,
Yep.
I love Arnie. He's in the group Millennial Entrepreneur Community. If
Yeah,
you guys
great
don't know what
group.
it is, go check it out. Yeah, I love it. He always says pitch or get off the pot. And that's if you want to be an entrepreneur, unless you have a ton of startup or some cash infusion or capital, you've got to get comfortable with pitching,
Yep,
often and finding a
absolutely.
way to provide value. From there, I did everything from post on Craigslist, I posted on Upwork, I went to networking events just in town and in the city. I shook his hands and smiled at as many people and told them what I did until some schmucks agreed to let me, in the beginning. I
Yeah,
love them to death and it's worked out, but they agreed for, I had no real backing other than the agency setting. But even then, I've learned owning a marketing agency and working in one or two departments is just vastly different. So I would say just getting yourself out there and known.
yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. Because that's the thing is, if you're really just starting out, if you're in your first year or so, you really have to just keep pitching because it's not going to come to you. And some like Craigslist, for instance, is a great avenue if you're just starting to look for leads. I'm unfortunate enough that because I'm based in Australia, which is awesome, very grateful for that. But I always pitch the States because I get 30% more on the dollar. So I have to get friends to like
Oh
list
yeah.
Craigslist ads for me and things like that. And sure, it means the odd like 2 a.m. wake up to make a client call and that sort of thing. But you just got to kind of do whatever you're going to do.
It's so true, and you're right. That's another big thing. I don't have a set schedule anymore, but that means that I work at every single hour of the day almost.
Yeah, no, that's it. Big fan of Red Bull.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've actually had to cut back on the coffee. I think I'm starting to get like acid reflux from too much coffee.
Oh no, I want to hear it, man. It's not a real thing. I don't want to know.
Right? No, I don't want to hear.
Yeah. Oh shit.
John,
So
my sleeping pattern? We don't have one. That doesn't exist. That's a myth.
yeah, it is a myth. So you're saying you've been
I've
doing,
literally been up.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're saying so you've been up for how long?
Well, I was gonna say I've gotten an email at like 1 a.m. that a guy I was having help me with moving over a site to a new host. He broke it. He like misunderstood my instructions. He
Oh
broke the
no.
site, and I spent the next 5 hours in like my underwear fixing the site. So I do like to get about 7 hours of sleep, and I try and make it, consistent. But sometimes you just can't. You're working. You're in the zone. You have a problem to put out. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It's always about fighting fires. That's really one of the biggest parts of working for yourself is fighting fires. That's really, and they're the
Yep.
things that shouldn't have happened. And there's certainly systems you can put in place to help reduce those, but things will always happen. If you've got staff or you're getting people to help you, it's 100% will happen. So yeah, even if it means waking up
Yeah.
at 1 a.m. in your underwear, or I'll be the same. Like I'll get because I always turn off my notifications on Messenger because that's mostly where I do my networking. And, I wake up and there's like
Yeah.
20, 30 messages there. Otherwise, I wouldn't get any sleep. But with Skype, I always leave that going because that's, where I'm talking to, my team. And yeah, if that goes
Yeah.
off, I'm just like, fuck, yep, all right, I'm up.
Yeah.
What's up? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't have, that's exactly it. I don't have text notifications. I don't do my social, but I do leave my call ringer on because everyone knows that if you call me, it's a fire. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I do leave that on as well.
Yeah, but it's interesting to say that because it's good to set a precedent with your clients to know that, all right, the calling is purely for emergencies. Otherwise, we schedule calls. If you call me and it's just, oh, I've got a question, not acceptable because really you can't put your all into their work if you're not getting enough sleep or if you're focusing on it and you're getting interrupted. So I think that's a really good point to make where, yeah, if they're going to call you, it's for a fire.
Yeah, and that's an excellent like piggyback off of that point is that the expectation setting might have saved my life. I think I would have lost my mind if I didn't learn how to write contracts properly and just really be firm about those expectations up front. Because, like I said, with that first project, $800, if I could do that, I could probably do that by tomorrow. The same amount of work that I did, knowing what I know, I could get that done by tomorrow,
Yeah,
whether through
nice.
hiring people or doing it myself, spending, 48-hour just binge working session. But it took me a good like 3 months to do it just because of scope creep and they kept asking more and I kept saying yes because I didn't really understand that everything they were asking me was things that they wanted but weren't necessarily good. They just didn't know it wasn't part of the deal because I hadn't set those expectations,
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah,
very important.
yeah, exactly. You got to set that precedent from the very beginning, that first or second conversation, like before they pay, basically.
Yes is deadly. I cannot agree more.
Yeah,
My
it really can
contracts are
be.
like 12 to 13 pages long. There is nothing, there is no stone unturned.
Good, good. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm the same. Like on the back end, it's just dot points of just, oh well, what happens here, and then a list of what happens, and then well, what happens if this changes, and there's that, and it's like, well, basically, I've done all this because I don't want to have gone forward with something and then realize that they now have a second list of things which would have cost double to do, and I've said yes.
Yep.
So yeah, it's all about learning, and that's the thing. It's just yeah, you got to just make sure your contracts are just ready to go. They're
Ready to
bulletproof.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've
Yes,
been
bulletproof contracts. That's good.
so with the running. So is that something you've always done, or is it something that Ken you've just started doing more recently, or have you found that with now working for yourself, it's been easier to manage or harder to manage? How's the exercise been going?
Sure. So I in college or not college, in high school, I used to play football, I did wrestling, I ran track, I used to lift competitively, and so
Cool.
I've always loved athletics. I've always, and like I said, I used to be about 40 pounds heavier, but like of muscle. So I'm getting used to not being that size.
Okay.
But yeah, I've always loved competing, and in college, I started working and grinding a little bit more, and not getting out of shape, I would say, but a little bit heavier and less athletic. And I wanted a way to still compete and get that feeling. So I
Yep.
start, just a buddy was like, "Hey, you want to run a marathon with me? And I'm like, dude, no, I don't want to run a marathon, you psychopath. Like, that sounds miserable. I lift heavy things off the ground for a living, like in short bursts, but
Yeah.
I did it, and it was, man, it's bloody incredible. Like the runner's high, that concept, it's real, and it's a really cool feeling. So from there, I did a bunch more races, a few more marathons, some adventure, like out in the forest type stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it. It's my way to decompress, getting out in nature, hiking, running. I'm in my room far too much, so
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. It's some, I'll make a point of at least getting out of the house like once in the day, even if it is just for a run or go to the gym, or sometimes if I really can't be fucked, it will just be like a walk for like, 15 minutes or something. But if you're working from home, definitely got to try and get out of the house more.
dude, it's important. You get cabin fever. Like you'll lose your mind if you don't. Sometimes I just wander out of the house. I don't even have a place to go, but I'm like, I need, I need to get out of here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I find with running
Do
as
they
well.
have? Do they have?
Sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
Ken, what's that? Well, yeah, I was just gonna
I was
say
saying,
like, what was your man?
I was just gonna say, do they have co-working spaces in Australia?
Oh yeah, they do. So there's a few. I'm not quite at that stage yet, but there's because there's a few. A bit of a drive from my house is one I know of, and it's about a half-hour drive. But they actually offer free for the first month for the office space, and then from there you can then, if you want to move forward, you can start paying rent. Or alternatively, if you've done it for the month but they haven't filled that space, they'll let you have it again for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever else. So, I know a few people
Sweet.
that have managed to get 4 months of office space for nothing just because they picked somewhere that was more of a developing area and just
Yeah.
it wasn't getting filled, but they wanted bums on seats to make it look, that whole social proof that it was getting utilized.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's good. But I mean, I'm happy. Like working from home, I've got the home office. And then if I want to work in the living room or sometimes I'll sit outside. I've done the odd one where I've driven down to say there's like parks near me. Obviously, I can't do any Wi-Fi stuff there unless I use my phone as a modem. But it's more just if I need to type stuff for say like a course I'm filming, or if I've got some copy I need to write. I did do one the other week where I drove down the beach and I started and I realized, well, shit, like the sun glare today, because it's so hot, I can't see anything. So I've just wasted like 45-minute travel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that so many times. I love being on the beach. I love the sun, but I'm like, I think in the like deep down, I knew it wouldn't work, and I wanted that to happen subconsciously.
Yeah. I know it's in theory, it's nice to work at the beach, but it's not. Like it's windy, there's sun glare. If you actually sit down at the beach, there's sand everywhere, and it's not good. So it really, I guess, comes back to the whole that Instagram thing of best foot forward, like lavish lifestyle. We're like, well, nah, man, like the reality is I'm getting sandy and shit.
I know. Sometimes I'll just take pictures of places that I'm at and I'll post it on my Facebook, and I'm like, look what you're missing out, friends. I was like, look what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not working, because I suck.
But coming back to the whole running thing, like with the runner's high, like I found, because especially with working in web dev and things like that, behind a screen all day, I find that running is one fantastic way to just be without a screen for, even just half hour or 40 minutes or whatever. Because staring at screens all day, it can't be good for the eyes. So yeah, that's probably one, I guess, safe space I have where I just don't have to stare at a screen, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really hard to, I'd like the fact that it's such a good tool for decompression. I think it's because you really, when you're running, especially if you're doing long distance or you're pushing yourself, you're not going to be focused. It's hard to procrastinate like mentally. You got to be focused on what the pain that you're making yourself go through. You know what I mean? And getting through it. So I think that's good therapy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've been reading a lot lately about how meditation's a great thing, and I did it once like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and it was actually really good. So I really just have to stop procrastinating and putting it into the regular routine. But it was only 10 or 15 minutes, but it just helped because I just didn't think about anything about work, anything about anything else, and it was just calming. It was actually quite nice.
Yeah, I make it a point to meditate almost every morning. Were you using like an app? Was it just free for all? Did you use
No, I just
YouTube
sat in
or?
the backyard and I just did nothing. I just sat there with basically just garden silence or garden ambience.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's awesome. And you liked it? You felt pretty good?
Yeah, I actually did. Yeah, it was good because from the moment I wake up to bed, my brain is just ticking. Like the amount of time I invest in thought just all day. It's constant. So, it takes me about an hour to get to sleep. John says no snakes.
Wow.
Um, well, John, it's in Australia, it's real hit and miss. Like here, I haven't seen any, but at my old house, and this is a very rare occurrence to happen, but at my old house where I lived, the front door was open ajar for some reason. I don't know why it wasn't fully closed. I live with a mate, so maybe just he left it open. I won't blame myself. But this baby brown snake just slithered into the living room, and baby brown snakes are one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. And the baby ones are, in essence, more lethal because they don't know how much venom to spit out when they're attacking. So,
Yeah.
and I'm just standing there in the living room seeing this baby snake come in, which could have very easily just gone onto a bed and no one would have known. Because there was a story not that long ago about a woman that had a snake living under a fridge. And I'm in thongs, which, in the States you guys call them flip-flops. And I didn't know what to do. So just in my thongs, I just crushed its head with my foot. And I was like, I hope this doesn't bite me. But I mean, what else do you do?
Oh my God.
Just, yeah, well, literally, like, I didn't know what else to do. So
I would move.
well, it was in the house. So if I was outside, I'd be like, oh, look, I'm going in. But yeah, the fact it was in my house, it's like, yeah, look, this is not going to stand. Yeah. So, but no, it was good. I just, sat outside, meditated. It was a nice warm day. So it was gorgeous. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So,
Well, yeah, and I'm a
yeah.
lot like you, man. My brain's always racing. So in the morning and before bed, I have a pretty similar routine because that's the only way I know how to calm down is to structure it and make myself do it every day. And part of that in the morning is meditation. So,
All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to start trying to do that. Maybe just before bed as well, just because, yeah, it does take me a long time to get to sleep because it's very hard to just turn my brain off. So I think with meditation, that might
yeah,
actually really be a good thing. But then it always happens
totally, man.
where, yeah, I'll be in bed and then I'll get some amazing train of thought. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to let this go. Like, I need to write this down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's part of my bed routine actually is just a complete brain dump. So I take out one of my journals because I'm a psychopath and I have like three, and I literally write down every single thing that I have on my brain. So everything I want to do tomorrow, any new money making idea that I have. Agreed, Adam. I'm
short
not a big
mantras.
mantra person myself.
Yep.
Yeah, but I do know some people that do use that as a tool.
Yeah, nice. So Tina
Tina,
said,
actually,
I do it
also,
before bed and visualize doing it before you sleep will put you in your subconscious. Awesome. That's cool. That's a good tip. No, thanks. This is great because yeah.
yeah,
So I guess this is just today's episode is how I can get to sleep better.
that's it. That's what it really is about. We're not going to talk about SEO at all.
Yeah, yeah. So, man, yeah, I was going to ask. So, yeah, let's get into SEO because I think a lot of people jumping on today really want to learn about SEO and with you, focusing on it so much. How for those that may be getting into it or those are in, is there any tips or tricks you can recommend or something like that you can really give a bit of insight for?
Sure. So, like in the beginning, I just want to say to everyone, there's so many misconceptions and there's a lot of snake oil salesmen. So I don't blame anybody for having these misconceptions. But at its core, SEO is just taking traffic from people that are already searching. So for like men's red tennis shoes, and you're building content and structuring your site with code, building links and things like that, so that they land on your website and give you money instead of Walmart or whoever your competitor in whatever industry might be. So that's all SEO is at its core. It's not paying Google. It's not doing anything shady. And well, you can do it in those kinds of ways negatively, but that's all it is. So I would say the most basic things for everybody that they could take away right now. If you have WordPress, go install the SEO Yoast plugin. Even out of the box, if you don't configure it at all, it will optimize your site in a few different technical ways.
Cool.
If you have, obviously, if you have products, you're going to have individual pages for your products. If you don't, go update your e-commerce store immediately. But for anybody that has a service-based business, one thing that you really want to do, so moving forward, search is all about the intent of your user and really understanding what their needs and pains and kind of struggles are. So if you say you're a an auto repair shop, you should have pages for every single individual service that you do. A page for oil changes, page for, engine repair, a pair for like engine installation. So you don't want to get so granular that you can't build content around it. So I wouldn't say different kinds of fluid. I would say fluid changes instead of your, brake
Yep.
fluid or the engine fluid. But you want to have pages so that when somebody says, help, I need a brake change, you have a piece of content that specifically caters to them. So the keys to those making that content perfectly optimized takes a little bit more understanding, but just building the content will make your website instantly more visible. Um, from there, I would go check out. There's a gentleman called Brian Dean who's just a savage at building links. So if anybody doesn't know, or for everyone that doesn't know, getting links back to your website from authoritative sites. So like, say the New York Times links to your article about making the perfect cricket protein. Well, that link in Google's eyes is basically a like thumbs up that you're a really dope site, right?
Yeah.
So
Great way
this
to put
guy,
it.
he does that. Yeah, he does that better than anybody I've ever seen, and his site's called Backlinko. Go check out www.backlinko.com and his on-page SEO factors. You will learn 30% of everything that I could teach you and any expert can teach you probably in a couple weeks. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, I mean, other than that, it's really just, understanding your customer. So when you go to sell something for your business, if you don't have an understanding of who your target customer is, just take like 5 minutes and write down that person's name, what they look like, some demographic information, how much money they make, some psychographic information like what are their struggles, what are their behavioral habits, and then just write the language of your website like that person, something that would cater to them. So if they're a soccer mom, you're going to want to write differently about your car repairs. So you're going to want to say things like, we're non-pushy, we don't upsell you, right? Because
Yeah,
those are things that might concern somebody who feels like they might be taken advantage of. If
exactly.
you cater to mechanics and you sell parts wholesale, you're going to want to use more jargon, industry specific terms, manufacturing terms, because that's what's going to speak to them, right? So that's probably the biggest piece of advice. Like if you need to know nothing technical, just write for your intended user and write a ton of content about your products and services.
Yeah, no, Ken, that's awesome. No, that's great. I think that will give a lot of people really valuable insight in regards to how to get started, with their blog or their website. So yeah, that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
let's get into a bit about. So yeah, you've been basically building websites and you can optimize them for lead generation. So how did that come about? Was that just you learned that through the agency, or is it something that just self-learned?
Sure. Yeah. And real quick, I forgot another biggest thing these are things that like move the needle really quick.
Yep.
For anybody who's not familiar with Google My Business, it's a service that Google offers for local businesses, but it's also good if you're even a national brand. It's very hard to get search visibility without being in their index or the results that they show you. So just type in Google My Business, follow the instructions, and fill out a profile. If you're a local business, especially, you'll see like an instant boost in visibility within the month.
Nice.
Um, so
Yeah.
just throwing that out there because it's super easy to do. But yeah, so I started out as a developer and I really enjoyed the process of coding because it's kind of how my brain has always worked. I just naturally compartmentalize things. I'm very analytic driven. And so I was like, I can do this. And then I was like, you know what? If I can code, I can program. So for my final project at university, I was like, I'm just going to build a web app. I'm just going to build an app and it's going to be about
Cool.
fitness and it's going to be great.
Yep.
And I did, and I got into it, but it was one of the harder things I've ever done. And I spent about 10 hours on a single function. So for any of you who don't program, that's about 10 lines of code. And I swore that I was done. Yeah, I was done after that. And then at university, I had a brilliant mad scientist of a professor who taught a course on information architecture and he started describing what SEO was, and I was hooked. It blended everything I love about human behavior, psychology, but also the technical aspects, because that's essentially what SEO is.
Yeah.
And from there, I just started knocking down doors on agencies till somebody let me in.
Yeah.
And I convinced them that I knew more than I did, and I learned as I went. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would say 98% is self-taught. I'm always teaching myself something new every day. I like to spend 30 minutes or an hour reading, read it probably a book a week. So
Yep. That's fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah. Well, they say that the average successful CEO reads 60 books a year. So if you can put the time in, it's fantastic. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of reading as well. Although I tend to buy books and then I'll buy a ton of them and then I'll read some and then I'll buy more again and I'll read some of those.
Dude, same. I'm so overzealous when it comes to I'm gonna read 100 of these books in like the next 2 weeks. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Ended up not doing it. Yeah.
Like, and I'll always like, for instance, if I go to, those secondhand stores, I went there the other week and I spent $20 and I got 6 books. It was just great. One was like Richard Branson's autobiography. One
Oh
was,
yeah.
Will I Am's autobiography. I'm a big fan of autobiographies. And, there
Dude,
was
heck
cheap.
yeah.
Yeah. And, $20 is great. But then whenever I go to an airport, I always buy a book or two, and they're normally like 20 or $30 each. So that always adds
Yep.
to my flight cost. I'm just like, yeah, I got to stop doing that.
It's robbery.
Oh, it is. Well, I take books with me as well, which is the worst part. But then, like, I get concerned I'll read them on the flights, and I'm like, I better get another one just for the flight home.
Right? Do you find yourself, by the way, do you find yourself reading mostly like business related stuff, like personal development, things like that? Or do you ever branch out just to decompress with like entertainment or?
Well, I kind of, there are business books that I read, but predominantly my favorite is the autobiographies of really, really successful people that have lived just ludicrous lifestyles and things like that. So like, I read Rick James's autobiography. That was crazy. Um,
That's awesome.
who else? The Wolf of Wall Street. The whole movie is compressed into like the first like 3 chapters. So there was that, and then Catching the Wolf of Wall Street. They were great. With the Rick James autobiography, it was a fantastic read, but it got into how like in the end it started to get quite like sad because it was talking about how he got into like using heroin and things like that. And then his like ghostwriter, about I don't know a tenth of the book to go, goes, all right, so Rick James has now died. I'm going to finish the book for him. It's like, oh.
Gee.
Yeah, like so that
Oh,
that took a turn. But I mean, fuck, like what a life the guy lived.
yeah. Can't even imagine.
Yeah, so yeah, I really like. I think autobiographies are probably my favorite read, and then yeah, definitely business books are second, just because I can actually put them into practice and I can actually utilize the information that they give. So I guess it's the autobiography. I guess for me is more of a motivator, but I just really enjoy stories and the fact that these people are living true lives or true stories, but they're still, say, compared to us, is just phenomenal. Then yeah, it still kind of ties back in. So yeah, with fiction, it's very rare I'll read. Like I've read the Harry Potters, for instance, but yeah, there's not too many non-fiction I'll run through.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I don't read too many, or I haven't read too many biographies or autobiographies or things like that, but I like that idea, like hearing from the people who have done, like you said, these extraordinary things that we can't imagine, like from their perspective, how they did it, why they did it.
Yeah,
Because like you said, I love stories too. That's why I love like blogging and writing and things like that. But it's really about just, captivating people and writing stories. And I don't really read too many, but I think I just might now, especially Rick James. I'm going to start there.
yeah, it was good and it was pretty cheap. I think from memory it was like $12 on Amazon or something like that, so relatively cheap. There was when I was first getting into the whole autobiography thing. I didn't really realize because I was quite young at the time. I didn't realize there was a difference between say biographies and autobiographies. I thought it was just if it's about the person, they've had a say in the book. I didn't realize there were unofficial ones. And I really like, bodybuilding and lifting weights as well. It's another hobby of mine. And I was reading one about Arnold Schwarzenegger thinking that, he'd written this. And then about halfway through, it started saying like, oh, and he went off and he slept with many women. It was a bad thing. I was like, hang on a minute. And I flipped to the front and it was written by a woman. I was like, oh, fuck, all right, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So yeah, I understand this point of view now because I couldn't comprehend like why Arnold would be saying these things when it was his life. Since
right?
then, I
Yeah.
have read his autobiography, and it was great.
He's one of my heroes. That man's a legend.
Oh, that man, from an entrepreneurial perspective, that man is an absolute legend. The amount
His
he
work
accomplished.
ethic, yeah.
Oh, his work ethic is bar none. Like it is phenomenal. Like that man, there's very few people I can put in the same league as him with work ethic.
It's ridiculous. I don't think I have it in me, to be honest. I'm gonna be like totally upfront with myself. I don't think I'm ever gonna be Arnold.
See, I go through phases, but I always like burn myself out when I do because there was a period where I went, I reckon, like 6 months, and it was just like non-stop. Like I had two startups going, I was working full time, I was hitting the gym every day, like, and it was just crazy. And then my friend was like, "Oh, look, can you help me with my business? Because I'm not getting to where I want it to be." And yeah, after like 6 months, I was like, "No, look, I got to take a step back. Like this is too much." Like, I mean, it's fantastic for those that can do that, but yeah, I was working like every day, like 18-hour days. I was like, no, I cannot I cannot sustain this.
That's a pretty interesting challenge that has come up a lot too, is like the concept of not having time constraints of when you have to work. So a lot of people think that that means that, we work less as entrepreneurs, but it's kind of the opposite. You end up
Yeah,
not having stopping points. I remember back right after I think it was either right before I graduated or right after I graduated. Like
yeah,
you said, between my job and working on like side ventures, because I always was selling something or doing some kind of, like, I started a blog a while back and monetized that and started doing drop shipping and stuff like that. So this is just the
cool.
most recent business venture with Doorbell. But I was doing that, working two jobs, like you said, and I'm pretty sure I started going blind in my left eye
Oh,
because
okay.
like a black spot started forming and then it got bigger and then other ones started
Ooh,
and it was getting out of control and yeah, my vision was really blurry. And the second I quit my second job and graduated and started sleeping like a normal person more than 4 hours a day, it went away. So
nice. Okay.
I don't know if that's coincidental, but it's very dangerous, to get in that mode where you're not living your life anymore. And as I
Yeah.
kind of like to think about it, like there's miserable multimillionaires, so
Yeah, well, that's it. It's about balance, and I mean, as an entrepreneur, the scales are tipped that it's predominantly work, but we need a balance. So there is some downtime, and there is some relaxation, and there is some I like to play video games, so that's kind of like my downtime. It's mostly
yeah.
just FIFA and Mario Kart 64, but but yeah, so
Heck
it's
yeah.
about yeah. It's funny. Yesterday, because my housemate and I we were playing a Grand Prix, so it was in all four cups. 4 races per cup, so 16 races, and we hadn't played it for like a week or whatever. So I'm sitting there playing, and I get a text from my friend, the one that I'm house sitting his dogs today for him while he's away, and he sends me a message and say, "Hey, can I come borrow Mario Kart? I'll come drop it off tomorrow. After I leave when I drop off the dogs." I was like, "Oh, I'm kind of midway through playing it. Like, can you come in 20 minutes?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So, yeah, Ken, let's get into Doorbell. I'd love to hear about your business because let's get into what you offer. Obviously we've covered some fantastic value from what you do, but we'd love to hear about your actual service. So, for those that have loved the value you've given so far, obviously you know exactly what you're talking about, which is awesome. So for those that would want to, hook you up and use your service, how do we get in touch?
Sure. So yeah, the company's Doorbell Digital Marketing. You can find it at doorbelldm.com. That's
Yep,
because somebody purchased Doorbell Digital Marketing and the domain is parked for about 4 grand. So when I have that amount of money, I'm going to buy it back.
yep,
But yeah. So really what we do is, and I say we loosely, I only have one other permanent person that helps me out right now, and then I contract work with another semi-permanent gentleman who does all of my like paid ads and a little bit of copywriting and things like that.
yep.
So we're technically a we. But so yeah, we focus mostly on WordPress development. That's my bread and butter. I write WordPress templates. I know how to do just about everything you can think of and more. So really what the process looks like is you have a website and I initially do just a giant audit. So from the code to your links to your social media profiles to the content, everything. We break it down. I figure out what your industry looks like, what the opportunity is. And from there, I like to work with people who need a new website as well, because it's always good when I get to start fresh from scratch and kind of make it perfect, then have to retroactively fix messes.
Yeah.
So from there, we build out the site. We take all the good UX considerations, all the good like best web practices into consideration. We build you a site that is useful and that your users are going to love to use. And then we build out just reams of targeted, fantastic content. We make the landing pages stick out so that when people land there, they have a clear call to action, they get use out of the information, and that the right person lands on your site for the right content, and they're more willing to convert. So for some people in some industries, this might look like an extra 50 to 100 people a month, but 25% of those people are going to be likely to convert.
Yeah,
that's exactly the kind of strategies I like.
That's
and
right.
I set up the site so that, every single service you offer is also a landing page. So a thing I like to do is either calls to action just in the text or in a sidebar, but we offer some sort of lead magnet, which is just an offering like an article, a resource, whatever, a checklist that you can offer, or a consultation, which just gets you on the phone. It gets them some contact information. And, from there, it's really just about continual optimization. So Google goes through, let's see, a couple hundred optimization factors every week. They do little fluctuations and tests. So I like to say I'm never going to be a true expert, because the second you think you're done learning about SEO, you better find another profession, because something's bad's going to happen to your site.
Yeah.
So from there, I really just stay on top of it. I'm an analytics nerd. Like I'm in Google Analytics and like Moz and SEMrush for any of you SEO literate people out there. And from there, we just make sure your site's still producing, and I'm not just talking about like traffic, because some people have gotten burned in the past where they'll hire an agency and they'll get them a few extra, some more traffic with terms that don't really relate to their business, or traffic that doesn't convert. The way I write my contracts, actually, I put a clause in there that, hey, if you're not happy any month, just let us know, in the next month we'll get out of your hair.
Yep.
Because I truly believe that, my unofficial slogan for Doorbell is, we like to make you so much money that you can afford to give us a small percentage of it every month. So that's my goal, is top line revenue. And that part of learning, like understanding sales, helped me structure my business that way. So really, I don't have any problem charging clients for 9 months, long contracts, because they know that I'm making them more money. And I prove it because I track everything on the site, like everything you can think of, clicks, scroll times, so it's pretty straightforward. From there, we just keep optimizing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, no, sorry, I thought we lost you there for a minute. Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic.
No, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, man. No,
I'll
all
keep
good.
moving.
Because
Let everybody know.
Yeah, awesome. No, that sounds fantastic. So, Ken, thank you so much for being on the show. Like, it's been fantastic to chat with you. This has been awesome. So, in the comments as well, if you're able to drop all your links, so for everyone that wants to get in touch with you, use your services, so they can jump on there. So, everyone that's tuning in at home, thank you so much for investing your time and watching the show with us today. If you're on the replay, we'd love to hear from you. Hashtag Team R, letter R for replay. So, Ken, is there anything else you'd like to touch base on before we wrap this up today?
Yes, two things. One, Ross, it has been an absolute pleasure. And I forgot my shameless plug. I'll put a link below. But for everybody, yeah, for everybody that does have a WordPress site and you're not an SEO genius, but you also are on a budget, I built out a pretty comprehensive course for you. It's an SEO for WordPress course, specifically made for small to medium business owners that want to do it themselves. So it's a ton of value. You can see the price, and I'll put the link below. But if you have any questions, let me know. But again, it's perfect for you if sounds like you. So just throwing it out there.
Awesome. Ken, thank you so much.